and welcome to the Sports Lounge. I'm Nathan Stacken. Here are some of the things we will be talking about in today's show. We will be discussing college basketball and with Ohio State losing and the ramifications of that and the tournament as we see it today. We'll also talk about Jerry Sloan leaving the Utah Jazz. Also, we'll be discussing the Islanders and the Penguins fight from over the weekend, and we'll have game time. And Travis and Drew will be doing their regular segment.
I'm bright, how bright I am. Holy hell.
With that, welcome to the Sports Lounge. I'm Nathan Stacken alongside Travis and Blake and Charlie. Drew will be along with us shortly. But guys, let's begin. I mean, astonishingly enough, no football today. I don't know. We will have a football topic, but it's going to be weird starting off with college basketball. And the last remaining undefeated team that was left prior to Saturday lost. Ohio State lost to Wisconsin 73-69 or something like that. Regardless,
I think it was 71-67.
Oh, thank you very much.
Facts be damned.
Yeah. Regardless,
We're in the
Ohio State
business.
Lost. There are no undefeated teams remaining in college basketball. So did the loss to Wisconsin prove anything to you about the Buckeyes, or is just a little blip on the radar and they'll be fine?
To me, it proved it's really tough to go undefeated in college basketball. I mean, it hasn't happened since Indiana in the late 70s. And, Ohio State's still going to have a great chance to, make a run in the tournament and win the title. But, it's tough to go undefeated, and it's tough to win in Wisconsin, too.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you just don't see teams going undefeated. It's a tough, conference road game. And, I mean, I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, they've got one loss. I think it just proves how much parity we really have this year. I mean, there's a lot of good teams up top. I mean,
is there any real number one team, though? Is there any real great team out there? We've seen it in the past with the likes of Duke and Syracuse when they had Anthony. It seems like the last couple of years there's been no really – it's a lock number one team in the country this year.
I think that's good for college basketball.
Yeah. Like last year, I kind of thought Kansas was that team.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think most people thought Kansas was that team last year.
And going back to the game, I kind of expected Wisconsin to win because you look at Ohio State's record against Wisconsin, especially at Wisconsin, it's not very good.
Most of the experts did have them.
So as far as an upset, it's an upset as far as rankings go, but not much of an upset as if you look at recent history between the two teams.
That's true. But honestly, I'm not sure that Ohio State isn't the best team in the country still, though. Like you were asking. I mean, they've still lost, one game through 26 games. They've got the best freshman in the country, play good defense. So I still think if it was up to me, obviously it's not. But if it was, I'd still have Ohio State ranked number one right now.
You would? Over Texas, over Pittsburgh,
Definitely over
Kansas?
Texas, and I would over Kansas.
And it's not surprising that they lost, but how they lost, considering they had a 15-point lead there in the game, and they just let that slip away.
True enough. Also, in the Big East, there could be a possibility of 11 teams in the tournament breaking, in fact, crushing their old record of 8, which they've had 2 of the last 3 years. Out of all those teams in the Big East, is Pittsburgh the best team?
I would say
they defeated Villanova on Saturday.
I kind of thought Villanova would win that one, but I think Pittsburgh's, for the time being, the number one team in the best conference.
And they're playing without their starting point guard, Gibbs.
Yes.
Yeah, Ashton Gibbs. I think Pittsburgh's the best team out there, too, in the Big East. And, I mean, going through that conference, I mean, it's just going to be battle-tested.
Yeah, it's a grind going through the Big East. I'd like to disagree for television's sake. Okay. I'd like to say Syracuse, but I'd be lying. I think Pittsburgh's the best team in the Big East as of right now.
And one of the reasons why they're going to get a whole bunch of teams in, because you look at the ACC, they're a little down. Where they're going to get 5 in, maybe? And you look at the Big Ten, they're not going to get 7, 8 in like they have in the last couple of years.
Who knows with the Pac-10 either, too. It's very tough. Also, I don't think there's going to be 11 teams making it out of the Big East just because 8, 9, and 10, maybe even that 11th team, they're all just going to be beating up on each other. And to get into that position in that spot, I think Cincinnati's got an outside shot of making it. Who knows about St. John's? They've had plenty of impressive wins.
I think Cincinnati should absolutely make it. What are they, 19-5?
Yeah, they had a soft schedule.
they're not even ranked. Come on.
All right. Well, there will be plenty of college basketball talk up to tournament time, and then including the NCAA March Madness tournament as well. But we're going to go now to the NBA, where last week Utah Jazz's head coach Jerry Sloan retired. He stepped down in the middle of the week. It was the day after his team lost to the Chicago Bulls. And Sloan was the longest tenured head coach in professional sports prior to the resignation. And guys, we've seen now a lot of long tenured head coaches in all sports. Bobby Cox stepping down with the Atlanta Braves, Jeff Fisher with the Titans, and now Jerry Sloan with the Jazz, leaving Lindy Ruff of the NHL's Buffalo Sabres as the longest tenured head coach in professional sports right now. Why have we seen the long tenured head coaches drop like flies pretty much in this year?
I mean, it's just not something that's very common. You know, you don't see. I mean, if something goes wrong with the team, usually let's fire the coach just to change things up. You know, you look at the NBA, it's so much recycled coaches. I mean, guys will coach somewhere for 4 or 5 years, get fired. Look at Avery Johnson, Rick Carlisle. They just keep finding jobs. But I mean, it's just not something you see very often. I don't know how to explain it really, other than everybody wants to change.
Like an anomaly that 3 of the 4 longest tenured head coaches, though in their respective major sport, are now gone within 1 year of each other.
It is surprising. I don't think you're going to see that very often, where 3 out of the 4 guys in sports all are out within the same year of span, or whatever. But like our favorite NFL coach Rex Ryan says, basically you're hired in professional sports to get fired at some point. That's how it's almost always going to end. And it's I just think it's impressive that Cox and Sloan and Fisher, that they were at their jobs for as long as they were. I mean, that it's got to say something. It's tough to be a head coach that long without getting fired.
And you look at the teams they had, they were very good teams. Bobby Cox, it was his own decision. If he wanted to come back, I'm sure the Braves would have let him come back. And then Jeff Fisher, that was a big old mess with Vince Young, and I think that's the one that surprised me the most out of all of them.
Fisher leaving
Jerry
the Titans?
Sloan, he was, the definition of consistent.
Oh, so you're saying Sloan was the
No,
one that
Fisher
did-
was the most surprising for
Okay.
me. But as far as Sloan goes, he was just, the definition of being consistent year in and year out.
Did all of these teams, the Atlanta Braves, the Tennessee Titans, and the Utah Jazz, were they all in need of a fresh face up to this point? I would say the Braves would be the one team out of the 3 that didn't need it, just because Bobby Cox had done so well there, and he's beloved in Atlanta.
Well, I mean, according to reports, a lot of the players in Utah thought they did. I don't think that Jeff Fisher lost that locker room, though.
I think that's the owner.
Yeah. It is. And then that was the most surprising to me as well. I think in Utah, yes. I think, there's a lot of been reports about Darren Williams maybe not being happy, and a lot of them saying that maybe he just didn't have the same fire that he used to have when he coached.
And something else other than Cox, but the other 2, they never won a title in their respective sport either. And Cox did, but he only won 1 with the Braves, right? Or was it 2?
No, it was 1.
He only
but
won
14
1
straight
and as
division
long.
titles.
So yeah, they were all successful and consistent, but I think it's a lot of it is just not really getting over the hump. Although the Braves did win that one.
Quickly, who will be the next longest tenured head coach now out of the 4 sports?
But do you want facts?
No,
Who
I
is?
don't. I just want, who do you think is
Who do
going to
you
last
think will
longest?
be?
We have Greg Popovich in San Antonio with the NBA and the Spurs. He seems like a likely candidate. Is there an NFL coach that can survive?
I think Mike Tomlin's
manager?
going to be there for a while. He's a young guy. He'll probably be there till his early 50s.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you'd like to say Bill Belichick possibly, but he's a guy that I've even read already that maybe when Brady's done, Belichick's done. I don't really have an answer for you.
I got Mike
Tomlin's a good, a good guess.
Tomlin is a good answer. I can't really come up with a great one either. It's so tough in professional sports because there's such a revolving door.
And you look at Ron Gardenhire with the Twins. He's been there, 10 years now.
Yeah. And still no World Series. He just keeps losing to the Yankees in the divisional playoffs. All right, one final topic here before we take a break, and then Travis and Drew will have their segment up here on the Sports Lounge. The NFL and talks with the owners and the players broke down last week. The owners reportedly canceled meetings with the players after a not so very good session on Wednesday. And there's a lot of ground that they have to make up in a very short amount of time leading up to March 3rd, the end of the current CBA. And as I turn back to you guys.
You never actually turn, though. You just.
Well, okay. As I go to you guys now, how have these latest reports and the cancellations of talks affected your opinion, or has it changed your opinion at all about whether or not we see football in its entirety next season or an abbreviated season?
It hasn't changed my opinion at all. I think they're just playing some hardball early on right now. Because when it gets right down to it, if they want to get something done, they're going to get it done. And I've heard, if they don't get anything done by March 3rd, it's going to be till Labor Day. Well, why? Why the hell do you have to wait 4 months, 5 months and get it done?
Yeah, I agree. I don't really buy into it either. I think a lot of it is smoke to make it look like when something does get done, they really made some concessions and had a miraculous, But I think the thing I take away from it is the owners are being really unreasonable with this. The players were willing to go with a 50-50 revenue split, which the owners want what do they want, a 57-43.
They want to completely flip the tables. Because the players right now, they get 57?
59%.
59%.
And the owners want it to be a 57-43 split. I mean, that's just not even reasonable until the owners come down. But I think we will have football too.
If they wanted to get this done this week, they could. But they'll drag it on.
Yeah, the deadline's the biggest thing. A lot of people in the media are trying to make it out to be like DEFCON 5 right now, like it's the worst thing ever. But I think it's just basically going to be, until the 11th hour, until they get their backs pushed up against the wall and they really need to make a deal happen, and that's when it's going to happen.
But didn't we see this with the NHL and their labor negotiations that once the deadline expired on their current CBA, then talks really fell apart and they ended up locking out for the entire season. Unlikely to see that with the NFL, but isn't there now, if they can't even agree to meet and try and hash out some of these issues, don't you see there being more of an issue with them getting a new CBA done by the time football should start in September?
Well, until maybe the owners lower their demands, then there could be some problems. It's easy for us to sit here and say it's an easy compromise, but really, there's going to have to be give and take both ways, and so.
Because we can kind of see how this is going to end up. I'd be interested to see, we expect, a 50-50 split?
You would think that would be right around there, yeah.
An 18-game schedule, we expect that?
Yeah.
I hope not.
That's probably what's going to happen. Fewer OTAs and off-season stuff like that, a rookie wage on that. So we know what's going to end up with this, we think. So I don't know why. As long as, any way the NFL can stay in the news in February and March when nothing is going on except college kids in shorts and T-shirts in Indianapolis throwing the ball around with scouts going nuts for whatever reason. Good for the NFL.
All right. Well, as Panthers owner Jerry Richardson says, he's paraphrasing here, he does not want the owners to get screwed again with this deal. So take him at his word. I don't know what that means. The owners obviously want as much money as possible. When we return, Travis and Drew will be discussing SDSU basketball from over the weekend and the latest happenings around SDSU athletics. You're watching the Sports Lounge.